And here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves a special podcast here today. I've got my main man, Sonny Vice, to interview yours truly. Not like I need to be interviewed. You guys have been listening to, well, I presume you've been listening to most of my podcasts, and I tend to run my mouth over all of my guests. But this podcast is going to be around my music, what I've been up to over the last few years, my history as an artist, as an artiste. I like to say that, I'm an artist, man. And just what I hope to achieve in the next few years. And hopefully be around here a lot more than a few years, but anyway, let's do it. Sonny Vice, my brother, take it away, son. You can interview Mr. Chris Shule. Ow!
Alright, man, alright.
Alright, let me just get
Should I go Krishna or MC Krishul for the,
Well, first let's just get this introduction music going. And just the Chris Shule.
Krishul.
Yeah.
Becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle.
Okay, here we are. You can turn to me. Got a really boofy hairdo going on over here.
Yo, dude.
Okay, Sonny Vice.
Welcome to your podcast.
Welcome to, it's weird welcoming myself to my podcast.
How does it feel to be a guest?
It feels good. Every time I do a podcast with you, it's always like you're taking control of the interview anyway, so it's copacetic.
God damn it, it's a lot of fun to actually, see the roles reversed. I mean, normally I feel the same way when, I'm usually the guy that takes over a conversation, talks the most, but there you go.
Absolutely.
We're equally dominant. All right, I don't know where to start, dude, but here's a good one. Like,
all right.
Obviously your whole dream, right, is
be a rock star, man.
Yeah, is like be a performer, be an entertainer. You love being on stage, and like something like that has seeds. Where does it begin? When was the first time you felt like, oh man, I really want to have as many people looking at me do something? Tell me a story.
All right. Well, obviously it starts from the beginning. Very good place to start. As a kid, I've always loved performing. I was brought up singing to Michael Jackson songs, Lionel Richie, doing all the dance moves, all of that kind of stuff. And even at the age of 2, 3, I'd be doing breakdancing moves during parties. And once I finally moved to Australia, I mean, at the back of my head, I always wanted to be a performer. Obviously, you go through different phases. I think I wanted to be Superman first, then I realized that Superman wasn't real. Then I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Then I wanted to be a veterinarian, a whole bunch of things. But at the back of my mind, throughout everything, I've always loved the idea of being on stage and influencing people through music. And I suppose the seeds were... Look, I felt from a young age that I've always wanted to do something without sounding like, oh man, I feel like I'm destined for greatness or that kind of nonsense. I think every young kid, I want to say every young guy particularly, I'm not sure if that's a little misogynistic though, but I do feel as if from a young age you feel this want to prove yourself to your peers, to everyone. And I don't want to live my life not striving to be the best I can. And the one thing I've loved doing more than anything, is performing, singing, dancing. So I've devoted the last 20 years to really trying to pursue that goal. And I was in a vocal group called Track 5 about 6-7 years ago. And for the last, a few years I've been doing my own solo stuff. So yeah, still chasing that dream.
How does that so obviously you're a little kid. And how old were you when you got to Australia?
About 4 years old.
4 years old, and you got here out of, is it Ghana, right?
That's right, Ghana, West Africa. Everyone thinks I'm from the States, but none of this African American nonsense. I'm from Africa.
You are, the real thing, man. It's I would say Africa.
Well, my friend's just at the door. Can you just get that?
Yeah.
We'll be right back. We're actually just getting ready to go see The Hobbit, everyone, and I've invited one of my other friends, Ankit Metter. It's a little kind of on the fly at the moment.
Welcome.
Oh, right, here he is now.
The door is being
this
opened.
Is Ankit, just calling him my buddy.
Alright.
Did you know how to... Oh, you didn't actually get that. Let me just... This is a little kind of weird, because I've started a podcast, and I'm going to call my friend over here, but, I like to keep these things real. I'm just going to let him know that he can come in, and we'll get this thing back running. Hold up.
I think the door is open.
Is open. Ankit, you there? Oops, hold up.
Yeah, I think he's coming up.
Oh. Can you open the door for me? Ankit, buddy, how you doing, son? I was just doing a podcast, man, and
Hey man, come in.
Sonny got here a little late.
Dude, like you'll be the live audience, except like live audience.
What are you doing? No, it's
cool.
it's cool. This is on
Dude,
the
just
fly.
chill. It's all good.
I'm getting my friend Sonny over here to interview me. I kind of want to get people to, well, give people an idea of who I am. Because next year, I'm hoping it's going to be a big one. I just wanted to put something out there to cover who I am, all that kind of stuff.
Dude, like,
So,
don't worry. Chill. We're back. We're back.
All right, ladies
I'm
and gen-
interviewing Chris Schul here. He's bearing his soul to the world. And we got to the point where, like I just found out he's originally from Ghana, and it's a very interesting correlation between, say, Africa and this ambition to, sing and perform. Because, I mean, mind you, that this may be a stereotypical view, and I do watch a lot of documentaries. But if you look at, people organically breaking into dance and song, I mean, you think of people somewhere around Central Equatorial Africa, because you see videos of their villages. They're singing, dancing as they work, as they go down the street, as they're shopping. They're a very rhythmic, melodic people.
Well, it's inherent within the culture. I mean, I'd say most of the pop culture, hip hop, R&B, that kind of stuff, it comes from the States, African American culture. And as you know, the African Americans, they're from essentially Africa, West Africa. I'd say about 95% of African Americans are historically from the west of Africa, and that is that part of the world is very influenced by music, by dance. And you'll find tap dancing actually comes from that part of the world. You'll find it when it comes to dance, rhythm, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, Africa is one of those continents that is just hugely immersed in that whole thing. So I think it's hard to not want to get yourself involved in music or dance coming from that part of the world.
If you purely go on cultural terms, you look at the Europeans, and you imagine them inventing organs or the piano or the harp with the strings, but the Africans is just so instantaneous, so organic. Like, they'd probably pick up the first object, which would be like a water canister, and start up a really awesome drum beat and burst out into song, man.
The amount of times I've seen some poor African kid using a cup or a pen as a drum and creating music from nothing. It seems to be, it's like music is such an inherent part of who you are that you make music from anything. You know what I mean?
And like, having spent the last year observing kids, I'd say there's pretty much two groups of people, and this is talking about stereotypes, but like true stereotypes. I would say like the islanders and the Africans are almost like born with music in their heart.
Very much so.
And like, you bring that down here, and then you're okay. So you're adapting to a new culture. You're going to high school. And like, where's the first performance? When is that first time that you get on some stage, any stage? Tell me about it.
Well, I would say around the age of 7 or 8, I joined the Australian Boys Choir, and that was more or less just a choir kind of thing. You're singing with a bunch of people, and it's your first exposure to singing in any kind of big environment. But it wasn't until, I would say, high school, around the age of 15, when I was in my first school production. And it was weird because I used to sing a lot, obviously, but I'd never been in that kind of environment. And everyone, during one of my performances, we were doing some kind of detective play, and I was some kind of I was one of those Frank Sinatra characters. What's that? Casablanca, that type of movie? Yeah, it was one of those style plays.
Stage musical.
Absolutely. I sang As Time Goes By. Now, the thing is, I used to have this really high-pitched voice. Everyone thought of me as the squeaky little kid that had a really high voice. And around this time, my voice had just broken. So I started singing As Time Goes By in this really deep voice. And everyone started laughing because they assumed I was miming. And it wasn't until I made a little error that they all started going, what? He's actually singing? Because everyone expected me to all sound like, hi, I'm Christian, I'm going to sing a song. And I'm like, you must remember this. And everyone's like, what the frack? This guy, he's actually singing? And after that whole performance, I started getting a lot of interest. I mean, the school jazz band, they asked me to join the band, and I started performing with them. And through that, I started getting a lot more gigs and stuff. So it wasn't until this big laughter erupted and everyone realized that I was actually singing that people started taking me seriously as a singer. And from then on, like throughout high school, everyone started wanting me to sing for them. In fact, I was in year 10, 11. Every wet day, people would have me perform in front of the tabletops, and I'd sing a whole bunch of acapellas and stuff like that. So that was kind of my
Every wet day. So
every
like,
wet day time. Yeah.
I'm guessing we're talking like under the canopy when it's raining and all the kids are sitting in front of the cafeteria and like,
Yeah.
somebody would get up on because in the school I taught there would be kids break dancing that would be playing the music. All right, so you were the
Yeah. What would happen is during the wet day, we'd all have to go into the corridors and just do nothing, you know what I mean? So we needed some kind of entertainment. All the girls would be like, Christian, can you please sing a song? And do the whole, I don't know if I don't really want, please. Okay, when deep down you're like, oh, really? I hope they ask me to sing a song. You get up on the stage and you start singing. Back then, Backstreet Boys was pretty big, so it'd start, even in my heart. Girls would go crazy. And that was my
for
introduction.
the record, I would have bloody hated you in high school.
Probably would have. I was a bit of an attention whore, but it kind of paved the way to me getting involved in the whole performing arts. I mean, from there, I joined a vocal group called Track 5 around the age of 18.
So, like, tell me about like this Track 5 thing, because obviously before your solo, career kicked off, that's the one thing that you were committed to more than any
Absolutely.
other project, right? So,
Absolutely.
like, how did that come about?
That was an amazing experience. It was a 5-piece vocal group. Our manager, Ella LaHaff, she put us together, went through a whole audition, that kind of stuff.
So, like, when you say like a manager put you together, like,
Yeah.
did you know these guys before you were in a band?
Not at all. And I'll tell you what, it was...
So it's like it's sort of like the typical Spice Girl
Absolutely.
Westlife type
Absolutely.
of story, right?
And 9 times out of 10, that's what happens with boy bands. They usually put out this story about how they met each other through some party and they decided to put a band together. But the official story is a management team always puts them together. I know that's the story with Blue. They were a pretty big band around the time I used to perform. It is the story with the Backstreet Boys. All the major bands you can think of, they usually put together. Because it's pretty rare, at least back then, I found to know a bunch of people that could hold a note. So it usually required someone to bring all of those people together. And the idea of being in a room with a bunch of people that could actually sing really well, it was cool.
So you were One Direction, like,
Yeah, I suppose
5 years ahead of time or something.
Yeah, I suppose
like
you could
that,
say that. We kind of compared ourselves to the Backstreet Boys at the time because they were the prevalent boy band back then. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of irritation as well. Everyone wanted to be in the limelight. It was kind of weird because in a vocal group, generally there's a lead singer that takes the limelight, and the other singers, they provide support. But because we were all singers in our own right, we were kind of like battling for the stage, and there was a lot of bitching going on, which is kind of weird because I remember asking our manager why she decided to put a boy band together, and she said that she thought about putting a girl group together, but they're just way too bitchy. So I can only imagine how bitchy a girl group would have been if we were already bitchy as hell.
Wow.
So the bottom line is there were a lot of politics that went on. It was really frustrating at times. But
so like, did you record a full album?
Absolutely. We got signed to a group called, not a group, but a label called Spin Music. These producers, they used to do a lot of the stuff, the Neighbors people. Okay. And yeah, I mean, we had some licensing deals as well, whatever the frack that means. I think that was just the term that we used to use. I ended up doing it, yeah.
Here's a question, something I've always wondered about, because like the process of making an album with something like a boy band, like I imagine there would be managers or producers gathering up a list of songs, right? And then they bring you guys in, and you guys probably battle over who sings which part. And then there's the arrangement of like what instruments and stuff like that. So like, what was that process like? Like,
that was frustrating, because I know someone like you appreciate artists that create their own work, create their own songs, all that kind of stuff. Now, all of us in our own right, we were songwriters, but because the producers, they wanted us to do their specific type of music. What would happen is we showed them all. We'd show them all our stuff, and they'd be like, we like this stuff, but we think you should do one of our songs. And it was pretty much a dictatorship. At the end of the day, you have to do this. This is how you're gonna sing it.
The bit that I'm interested in, like, is obviously you got 5 guys, right? And every if you guys are all pretty good singers in your own right, you're already like ahead of most boy bands. And if most of you are writing music, then like, first, did you duke it out over who gets to sing which bits.
All the freaking time, man. All the freaking time. I would be like, Paul, bro, come on, man. You're doing all the... Paul was pretty much the leader of the group. I mean, we never had an official leader, but he was a Leo. And, I mean, they tend to be very kind of take charge. But he was the one that was always taking charge of everything. He was so confident, and I learned so much from him. He was like 5 years older than me. One of the reasons we called it Track 5, at least I like to think. I was tracking everyone by 5 years at the time. And one of the things I loved about Paul is I've told you before, I've told you this, the guy was competent as hell. He had huge balls. And as I said, like, not only metaphorically, man, but this guy had freaking huge testicles, man. I actually saw him one time, but I digress. But bottom line was, Paul had this way of getting everyone to fall in line to make sure that at the end of the day, the group was cohesive. And, I mean, you kind of need someone that's setting the stage. But, yeah, altogether, it worked pretty well, at least until we broke up.
Oh, man, like, so you were together for how long?
5 years, strangely enough.
Track 5, 5 guys, 5 years together.
Yeah. It was only 3 guys for most of it, though. Within the first year, we lost a couple of people. And, then we decided to keep the name, though, as Track 5, with only 3 of us. But it was good, man. We ended up going to Europe for this festival called Popcom, funded by a manager. We got to meet some really interesting people in the industry, got a few licensing deals there. We went toward Berlin, toward London.
Do you have like a clip?
Absolutely. We were on MTV, Channel V. One of our songs was the longest running top 10 video in 2004.
Dude, like I'll tell you like one thing that I'm like almost shocked at.
Okay.
Well, you are not exactly shy or humble most of the time, and yet this is something exceedingly...
What do you mean I'm the most incredibly humble person I've ever...
I mean, this is something exceedingly impressive, and like you've never... I mean, I know you were in a boy band of sorts before, but you never really even mentioned that you were touring the world and you were like on rotation on MTV.
Oh well, it wasn't touring the world. In fairness, it was just touring Europe, just a couple of countries. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I mean, look, most of my friends, they were aware of the fact that I was in this vocal group because they used to go to the gigs and that kind of stuff. But it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, unless of course you made it on that big level, like you've been in one of these reality TV shows, you had a #1 single, I don't feel as if it really means anything. I mean, obviously the experience was fantastic, but I don't feel as if it's something that I would brag about. Like, hey man, I had a single in the top 50 RH charts. It's not really brag-worthy. I mean, it's something that I'm very proud of the fact that I got to be amongst a bunch of really talented singers and musicians.
Here, I'll ask you a question that,
Yeah.
It may not be your favorite question, but
Sure.
It's something that is like, I'm a tennis player and we always discuss it with each other, and you always go like, who out there is really talented and who out there is just like winging it on the basis of a freaking some fluke that like people with the skills don't actually...
It's a really good question.
Kind of get like you obviously look at a lot of pop music, right?
Absolutely.
And like, who do you feel when you're watching pop and listening to pop that like, oh my god, this person is like blowing me away? And who do you feel like, oh my god, like somebody get this guy? Or
well, I don't like to talk negatively about anyone, so let's talk about the positive. First of all, people that I actually know. One of the great things is I've had the benefit, because I'm constantly doing these reality TV shows, trying for alpha competitions and that kind of stuff. I met some amazing singers. As most people would know, from watching X Factor this year, one of the guys, Omar Dane, one of the most hardworking guys that you will ever meet, has a ridiculous work ethic. I thought I had a hard work ethic. This guy is... And the one thing I love about him is he never gives up. I mean, he openly speaks about how he's been rejected from so many TV shows, but he keeps on going and going. And that is the one thing that I admire more about anything. The ability...
Perseverance.
Perseverance. And the guy is unbelievably talented. Like, he made the top 6 of the X Factor this year. He's got this ridiculous falsetto voice, and I bet you, if he's not already signed, by the end of next year he's going to be signed to a major. The guy's got a ridiculous fan base now. The teeny boppers are going crazy for this guy. All this crazy like that kind of stuff I was doing, and magnify that by 1,000, and that's an insight
since
into
it started with
what
the
this guy
bloody
gets.
Beatles. It never ended. There's always been some freaking teenage arousing
Absolutely.
cliche type of music. But all right, we got Omar Dean. Like out of the stuff that everybody watching will be. I'm talking Usher, Beyonce, whatever. You know, like out of them, like who and why. And I mean, I want to know purely as a musician / performer. You know, like they're. What's a big influence or what's an inspiration for you?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I think being able to do something to a very high level is inspiration enough. And I mean, regardless of what you're doing, there's so many brilliant performers in their own right. I mean, there's some singers, there's some dancers, some that are better at one than the other. But when someone is brilliant and putting them all together, that's on a completely different level. I find that Usher, the fact that he's this consummate singer, he's this consummate dancer, he's a businessman, he does a whole bunch of other things. Someone that's putting it together so well, and I feel as if he's also managing, as you know, he's pretty much manages Justin Bieber. At least Justin Bieber signed to his label. So I would probably say the person that's at the top of their game in at least the R&B world at the moment is Usher. I mean, you mentioned that name, and everyone. Yeah, respects it because he's such a consummate performer.
Now, even I, it's not my type of music. It's not something, but I gotta say, yeah, you're right. I respect Usher. I mean, you look at a guy. First of all, like he has been in top physical shape from day zero. He's been one of the best dancers I've ever seen, and like I grew up loving Michael Jackson, and whoever comes closest. And I would say out of the people that I've looked at, Usher would be right up there.
Absolutely.
And then, okay, I think, Justin Bieber he's a symptom of the demise of popular culture, but nonetheless,
what's wrong with Justin Bieber, man?
If you're going to
I give credit where it's
successfully,
due.
if you're going to successfully take some kid singing in his bathtub and make $100 million out of it, like I still gotta respect that.
Well, give the people what they want, man. The fact of the matter is, there are a lot of teeny boppers out there that love Justin Bieber, love what he's doing, and look, man. If something sells, it sells. That's the thing about one of the things I've learned from this industry.
A lot of people in the world love McDonald's, like
that's
billions
true.
in sales.
A lot of people like to critique artists like Justin Bieber, and they say, "Oh, he's really not that good. He's just got all this exposure." First of all, he is really good, but there's so many different factors in becoming a famous or well-established performer. There's a marketing angle, there's the singing, there's the dancing, there's all of these different angles, and sometimes you may not be looking at all the angles. You may just be looking at one saying, that guy's not a really good singer. He shouldn't be there. But maybe he's worked his ass off in all of these other areas and you're not aware of it. So it kind of all levels out. And unless, of course, you're seeing the bigger picture, I don't really think it's fair to say this guy doesn't deserve to be where he's at.
The bit that I'd say is most underappreciated is professionalism. I'm just imagining like what it takes to do a world tour. You bar your soul on stage, night in, night out. You live out of hotels, and to do that at a reliable, consistent basis. Like day after. I mean, you look at someone like Beyonce, and the show that she puts on. Again, like I don't really like Beyonce all that much, but I have managed projects as an engineer, and I look at somebody headlining such a big project, and doing it to perfection for decades. I mean, have you ever heard you've seen that old stuff about whatever Justin starts miming or Britney or a lot of these people, but no, like Beyonce is live, it's real, it's perfect every time.
She is a redonkulous singer. I love using that word, but I only say that for really amazing people. I've heard stories about her as a kid running on treadmills, singing, going through like a UFC athlete trains in the most rigorous ways to develop their physicality, their skills. Beyonce, from a young age, she was training her voice, and the fact that she's had so much experience from starting this from a very young age, she's so devoted. It really shows. She is one of these singers that I've heard her just getting up and say, just dropping down, in the country, and just gets on stage without a sound check, and she's wowing the audience. And that level, it takes discipline. It's like that 10,000 hours thing. People arrive at that level of brilliance not by chance. I mean, talent has obviously is a factor, but it comes down to putting in the hours. Like, you of all people know this as a tennis player, right? The amount of hours you would have had to put into, what were you? You're the top 5 in the country you were at some point, right?
Well, given that I played in Libya and Bosnia, yes, I was top 5 in both, but it's not exactly some world-beating standard. But even to get there, it would have been, 5 years back-to-back averaging 4 hours a day. And that is slacking compared to, like, the Spanish kids,
Yeah.
Like, I felt, what's the word?
Overwhelmed?
Like,
beaten
not
down?
I felt lazy and not good enough for my 4 hours a day. And I mean, to reach excellence in something that so many people strive for. And tennis and singing, performing, I would say that there are millions of young people
Absolutely.
lining up, doing their utmost best to get there,
Yeah.
and anybody that, whether they wind up finishing it, wowing the crowd with the beautiful shots or, like the tunes that I particularly enjoy, whether that happens or not, just to make it in something so cutthroat competitive is amazing. And the word I was looking for earlier is, like, I felt inadequate at 4 hours,
4 hours a day
compared to how to some of these at my time, how did South Americans and the Spanish trained.
Yeah. Well, Paisan, I feel like I'm going to have to interview on this right now because I really wanted to explore that further, but I wanted to keep this down at 20 minutes. My friend Ankit is in the house over here, and we're about to head off to see The Hobbit, which I've been waiting for all freaking year. But ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to do this podcast just to give people an insight into who I am. First and foremost, obviously I'm a singer, but I've been doing these podcasts for the last couple of years.
I'll hijack the thing.
All right.
And
Let's just wind it down because we got to.
I will wind it down.
All right.
I mean, I will say this, like, dude, like, as in who you are, you're an open-minded person.
Thank you,
bro. You are doing something that is universally inspirational and everybody should copy. You found something you love, and you're putting, like, everything you got. You're organizing your life around it, Like, there's a lot of people who have a talent, and they have, a full-time job they hate, and they dream about their talent. But no, you've, like, literally reorganized your life to become a better singer every day of the year. And
I'm not paying you any money for this, Sonny, okay?
I mean, as I say, as somebody who's, like, not all that into pop culture, like, I look at you and I respect that a lot.
Well, thank you, man.
So,
Coming from you, man, I really respect that. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Sonny is doing some amazing things, which we're going to get into in the next podcast. As you know, he's a tennis player. He is one of the leaders of the Melbourne chapter Zeitgeist movement, and he is an engineer, constantly working on some amazing stuff. But, ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is about me, and we're going to get into Sonny's podcast probably the next time. Until next time, peace out, keep it real. This is the Crystal Journey Podcast. Be sure to share this out there, and have a good one. Peace out. Ow! Okay.
Have you put water into a cup?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Ankit. I didn't realize you'd be...
I hope, like,
Becomes the bottom
I might have